So we heard from John Lennon, we heard from Bob Dylan. That's Rihanna and Jay-Z. The song is Run This Town. Now, let me tell you why I started with that, and I'll get there in a minute. I have a 6-year-old daughter named Anjali. A few months ago, she came back from a day of school in first grade. I said, "What did you do in school today?" She said, "We had an Alice drill." I didn't know what that was, so I looked it up. An Alice drill is an active shooter drill. She didn't know that, but she said, "Well, they taught us to, when we have stranger danger, to run around and throw things and cause a commotion." The theory is that in the extra 20 seconds it takes that shooter to murder my daughter, maybe a few more kids can escape. That's what we're teaching our children as young as first grade. I think that's absolutely heartbreaking. And that's why I'm running to repeal and replace Leonard Lance. Now, let me tell you a story about Leonard Lance. The Parkland shooting happened on February 14th, on Valentine's Day. 2 days later, on that Friday, Congressman Lance put out a tweet. He said, "I think the Centers for Disease Control ought to be allowed to study gun violence as a public health issue. And there's a law that prohibits it. I think that law ought to be changed. Repeal the Dickey Amendment." I see that sign right there. And you know what I said? I agree. Guess what? 5 times a bill was up for a vote to address the Dickey Amendment issue. 5 times Leonard Lance voted to block that bill. At the moment that he put out his statement, there were 2 bills in his committee to address the Dickey Amendment issue. He wasn't sponsoring either of them. And we called him out on it day after day after day after day after day after day after day. And on the 7th day, a week later, Leonard Lance co-sponsored the Gun Violence Research Act. What does it tell you? What does it tell you about a member of Congress that he's not a leader, and it takes us, all of us who called and tweeted and reached out to him and reminded him that November is coming, to get him to eventually, kind of, a little bit, do the right thing? The song that we just heard, Rihanna says, "Can't be scared when it goes down. Got a problem, tell me now. Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna run this town tonight." And in the first verse, Jay-Z says, "We are." Yeah, I said it. We are. 20 years ago, one of my supporters dug up an old video of an interview I gave almost 20 years ago, just after the time I was the youth governor of New Jersey. And I was saying that young people needed to have a voice in the political process to address important issues like the environment and drug addiction and gun violence. And 18 years after that interview, have we solved those issues? No. Who's going to run this town tonight? We are. Yeah, I said it. We are. The new generation, all these young people here, all of those who have done so much to stand up and say that enough is enough, and are going to show up in November armed not with bullets but with ballots. Leonard Lance says thoughts and prayers are sufficient. We say enough. Leonard Lance is not a leader. We say enough. Leonard Lance thinks he's going to be reelected. We say enough. Thank you all so much.